As the world patiently awaits the next Nintendo Direct to come out, some people are starting to wonder, well, what games are we going to be playing for the Nintendo Switch in the year of 2020? Animal Crossing is nearly here. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition will probably be a late spring or early summer release, but beyond that, there's honestly just a ton of mystery. In times like these, though, it's good to look at the games that we know are scheduled for 2020 that are honestly just flying under the radar. Today I want to talk about some new Nintendo Switch games coming out this year that honestly you forgot about and you need to be reminded of. What's up guys, I'm RGT85. Unlike the NBA, the XFL, MLB, and NHL, RGT85 season is not canceled. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. But without any further ado, let's talk about some Nintendo Switch games coming out in the year 2020 that you probably forgot about. The first game we have to talk about is a game that, well, I never expected it to get a sequel, much less a sequel on a Nintendo platform. In February of 2010, the world was introduced to, honestly, one of the strangest games ever, Deadly Premonition. Now on the surface, Deadly Premonition looked like a standard horror game for that sort of time frame, but once you played the game you realized, for better or worse, it was so much more. You play as an FBI agent named Francis York, and you're investigating a sinister murder that happened in a town called Greenvale. Quickly though, the game starts to show you to expect the unexpected, as honestly, it's a super strange game. Francis isn't really a normal person, the town is full of weird characters, and the gameplay types that you encounter in this game are honestly just all over the place. It's a part horror game, it's a part open world game, it's a part puzzle game, and the story unraveling quickly gets very out of hand. Because of just how weird it was though, it was a polarizing game upon release, but as time has gone on, it's quickly become a cult classic. The original never saw a release on a Nintendo platform until the sequel was announced for 2020 and hit the Nintendo Switch with Deadly Premonition Origins, releasing both digitally and physically, and it even came out with a collector's edition that, well, I just had to buy it. Deadly Premonition 2, A Blessing in Disguise, is coming to the Nintendo Switch and at least a timed exclusive sometime in the year 2020, and once again you are playing as Detective Francis York. This time, however, Francis heads to a small town called Le Caire in New Orleans to once again investigate a murder case. Obviously, with a 10-year gap between the games, things such as visuals will more than likely be improved upon, along with some of the gameplay elements that may feel a bit dated in the first game. But I do hope the sequel maintains some of the outlandish things like the dialogue from the first game that honestly just made it so unique and stick out. The game is being worked on the original team who did the first game, so I have high hopes that Deadly Premonition 2, A Blessing in Disguise, will once again be one of the weirdest but strangely intriguing games for the Nintendo Switch in the year 2020. While the Tony Hawk games made the skateboarding genre a mainstream thing, I always personally like the skate games a bit more. Maybe it's because I skateboarded for over 10 years, don't mess with my fakey inward heel flips, but once the skate series started, I never really went back to that more arcade style that Tony Hawk brought to the table. Unfortunately, however, it's been a long time since we've gotten a new skate game, with many people being hopeful that something like Skate 4 would have come out on the Xbox One and PS4, but we went a whole generation without it, so it seems like EA just isn't focused on that franchise anymore for better or worse. Thankfully though, games done in the style of Skate are coming, and one of those games is hitting the Nintendo Switch with Skater XL. Skater XL is different from the skateboarding games of old though. Instead of having a bunch of missions you are supposed to accomplish, Skater XL is more of a free roam sandbox experience of just pure skateboarding. The developers have touted that it's more about learning the game and creating your style more so than doing things like get a set number of points, which honestly I can appreciate. One thing I find really cool is that simply doing a trick doesn't mean it'll look the same every time, as the physics engine is based on many different things. So for instance, if you do a kickflip down a gap, your board will rotate differently based on the way you moved your analog sticks, which to me is a very cool thing to see. You'll be visiting several real-world locations in the game as well. Although they haven't been too vocal about what those locations are going to be, I do hope the Carlsbad Gap is there. The graphics of the game maybe don't necessarily scream a AAA release, but since this game isn't a AAA release, I'm not too worried about it, as I think it looks clean enough. As long as things like the frame rate and the controls are rock solid, I could see Skater XL being a very welcome addition to the Nintendo Switch library in 2020 as, well, there's really no skateboarding games for the system. One of the most beloved franchises that Sega has ever made was the Panzer Dragoon franchise. Considered to be some of the best Sega Saturn games of all time, Panzer Dragoon and its sequel were heralded for its visual style and tight gameplay, with the third game in the series being well received as well, but different in terms of gameplay, adopting more RPG mechanics. After one final game on the original Xbox done in the style of the first two games, Panzer Dragoon, like many Sega franchises, well, just faded away. However, during E3 2019, we were introduced to Panzer Dragoon Remake, which is, well, I mean, you guessed it, it's a remake of the first game. Now, if you haven't played a Panzer Dragoon game before, it's an on-rail shooter that will probably give you some feelings of Star Fox games like the original or Star Fox 64 in terms of gameplay. Now, obviously you aren't on a spaceship, but you are on the back of a dragon, trying to stop a dark dragon from activating an ancient rune in what is known as the Tower. The gameplay for its time and the art style really stood out, and it seems like Panzer Dragoon Remake is looking to improve those things as well. Obviously, the biggest upgrade we have seen so far in the game is within the graphics, featuring much cleaner looking environments, textures, and monsters to shoot down on your quest. The gameplay has also been improved as well, making things a bit more modern, by improving the 360 controls and the lock-on targeting system. It remains to be seen if anything is being added to the game, such as new levels or new content, and the game was originally looking like a 2019 release, but has since slipped into 2020. Now, hopefully the additional time has made for additional improvements in the game, because as of right now, Panzer Dragoon Remake is a console exclusive for the Nintendo Switch, and as a big Sega fan, I cannot wait to re-experience this game once again. I'll keep it real with you guys like I always do, I sort of missed the boat on the Devil May Cry series. I played the original game on the PS2 and enjoyed it. I played Devil May Cry on the Xbox One and loved it. I replayed Devil May Cry 1 on the Nintendo Switch and loved it, and recently played Devil May Cry 3 on the Switch and, well, I loved it. And while there probably won't be a Devil May Cry game releasing for quite a while now, there is a game that looks a hell of a lot like it that is coming to the Nintendo Switch in 2020 that I'm keeping my eye on, called Devil's Hunt. Now, everything I've seen so far from Devil's Hunt honestly looks a lot like a Devil May Cry game, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, as the Switch could use some more mature action-adventure games in that style. Devil's Hunt has you playing as a guy named Desmond who has to form a deal with the devil, which in turn gives him some abilities that no other human would have. Desmond basically fights through various demons and angels while contemplating his impact on humanity. You choose from 3 different fighting styles, much like a Devil May Cry game, and there's a skill tree system as you customize Desmond to your fighting preferences. There's a large variety of areas that you go into as well, ranging from Hell to Miami. Yes, Miami, Florida. So it keeps things interesting throughout. Obviously, looking at the gameplay footage here, you can see it looks a hell of a lot like a Devil May Cry game. The game released on the PC last year, but it did get mediocre reviews because of things like performance issues. Since then, however, patches have come out that improve the experience, so hopefully whenever this game hits the Nintendo Switch in 2020, all of the technical issues are ironed out, because I think this could be a really fun game to check out for those who love the Devil May Cry series, and of course are waiting on games like Bayonetta 3. Sometimes when researching games for a video like this, I come across titles that, well, I've never heard of before, and this is definitely one of them, Baldo. Evidently a trailer released for this game about 8 months or so ago on the Nintendo YouTube channel, but for whatever reason I never saw it until now, and wow, this game looks absolutely stunning. Obviously, looking at the trailer here, you can see this game oozes a style that is very reminiscent of the Ni no Kuni games, with some just outstanding artwork that pretty much looks like a cartoon that you actually play. Baldo deviates from that style of game though when it comes to the actual gameplay aspect. Baldo is more of an action-adventure game with RPG elements, which is very reminiscent of things like the Legend of Zelda series. From what we have seen so far, you will do things like visit dungeons, solve puzzles, cast various spells, and of course, engage in some sword-based combat. Now, details are honestly pretty quiet about this game, but after rewatching this trailer like a dozen times, I want to know more and I want to know it now. All we do know is that Baldo is tentatively scheduled to release sometime in 2020, and the sooner the better because I think this game could make a huge impact. The final game is something that was actually just announced for the Nintendo Switch, so I thought I'd throw it in here because it looks kinda cool, and that is Adam's Venture Origins. Taking place in the 1920s, you play as a character named, Well, Adam Venture. You basically go on a journey with your lady friend Evelyn to unravel the mystery of Eden in an Indiana Jones style adventure. On your way, you'll do things like solve puzzles, explore deep tombs and caverns, while your attempts are trying to be thwarted by people who want to use the power of Eden for evil. Now, looking at this trailer, it honestly looks a hell of a lot like a Uncharted or a Tomb Raider, but there is one key difference. There's actually no combat in the game. Now, for some people, I can see that being a deal breaker for sure, but for me personally, I don't mind it too much. The game has previously released on other platforms and received mixed reviews, mostly due to things like the lack of combat, but was praised for the gameplay that was there and the storyline. It'll be interesting to see how the Nintendo Switch version of this game ends up coming out, because I think it has a lot of potential to be something fun on a platform that doesn't have too many games in this sort of style. Adam's Venture Origins is confirmed to be hitting the Nintendo Switch in the month of May, so are you going to be checking it out? Alright, so those are some of the Nintendo Switch games coming out in the year 2020 that honestly, I feel like you probably forgot about these games, or maybe you never even heard of these games, because I know I'd never heard of Baldo before, but good lord, that game looks absolutely incredible. So maybe you learned a little something today. So let me know in the comments section down below what you think of these games. Have you been tracking any of these games? Did you forget about some of these games? Or did you learn something new about these games, or maybe discover a new game completely? And as always guys, thank you for checking out this video. Like I said at the start, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel. Take a look at the pinned comment in the comment section down below to follow me on things like social media, or to check out the complete Sega 32X guide if you like Sega stuff. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.